Welcome to Drone Daddy. I'm your host Ryan. I got some really fun things that we're going to do this evening. We are going to take this blade Inductrix, and we're going to talk about that a little bit because I got a few things to say about that. So let's take a zoom in here. Blade Inductrix. It's the what started the whole Tiny Whoop revolution. Head over to tinywhoop.com to get an actual Tiny Whoop. Tiny Whoop is a trademarked item, and it's kind of been used now as a generic term similar to Band-Aid, right? It's just kind of everything that is this small with a camera on it is considered a whoop. And so we are going to have some fun tonight. I decided to do something a little different, kind of waiting for some other things to come in that we can work on. So we're going to turn this into this little hovercraft, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to get right to it, but before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on the table. And as always, feel free to drop some comments in chat. If you can't hear me, definitely drop some comments in chat, and let's have some fun together. So it's a super easy build. We should be done in less than an hour, barring any complications. We're going to use some 10mm styrofoam. And the Tiny Whoov template. Now, this is designed by Alex. There's a link to his website below. It's BA Drones. Use your imagination. Bad something drones. Go ahead and check it out. And since this is kind of a family-oriented, as I have kids, and but super thankful to Alex. Brilliant plan. And so let's build one ourselves. Now, his drawings have some... Let's go ahead and head over to the table view here. His drawings have little styrofoam cutouts for the motors, for the fins here in the back. These guys here. Oh, I should fix my light now. These fins here in the back. See these guys, and then some mounts. This is where our board's going to go, and then it has the motor mounts, these guys here. And what we're going to do with those is nothing. Normally you would insert them into the holes to put the motors in, but we're actually gonna... I've got a spare Inductrix style frame that I have left over, and we're going to put these in the holes and put the motors in there so that you know, it creates more of kind of an Inductrix style thing. Gives a nice solid mount for the motors, as well as this battery holder in the middle. We'll put it on the back to actually hold our battery, and that will make things a little more... let me fix my camera here just a little bit. Excuse my arm. That'll make things a little more enjoyable, I think. More fun. I want this thing to look as much like a racer. You can see I kind of put like a racing stripe on my other one. And so we're going to go ahead and move that aside. But that's what we're going to build today. We're going to build one of these, and we're going to try to fly it around the floor here on my hardwood floor. I've seen people actually take these and waterproof the boards and take them out in the snow and fly them. So these are pretty cool little beasts to fly around. So let's get started. A couple things I want to say about the Inductrix here before we move too far forward. I decided it was the easiest to get a hold of. China's kind of shut down right now, so there's a lot of the hobby links and things that are just unavailable, and they don't start shipping out, I think, until they just started, I think, on the 20th. So Chinese New Year's kind of got China shut down, and so getting a hold of some of those things are a little tricky. And so I just went to a local hobby shop and picked up an actual blade Inductrix. And I bought the kit, which comes with this nice little controller. It's actually pretty nice. And here's the one thing that I didn't, in case you want to know, they're about $50. There is a link below to Horizon's site. They're about $50, and well worth the money, especially if you're new to droning. If you're new to droning, I highly recommend getting yourself an Inductrix. If you can't afford the $50, you can get a clone off of Banggood, which is also linked below. I am an affiliate, so just letting you know. Although I recommend, if you've got the money, getting this blade Inductrix, and here's why. So recently, Josh Bardwell did a kind of a feature on whoops, and one of the things that everybody is trying to do is get the clones to fly as good as these Inductrix do. And there is actually a website, it's Operation Mongoose, I think, or something. I'll look it up and I'll post it in the comments below tomorrow. But everybody was saying how much better these fly, and of course I'd never flown one, so I didn't know. And I felt like the one that we built, the B core last week, I felt like it flowed just fine. And then I flew this, and even without the camera. And what I will tell you is, it flies like it's on rails. And what I mean is, I am not a very good FPV pilot yet. I'm not a very good drone pilot yet. And so for me to kind of hit small gaps, like between chairs or through a gate, or in between small openings, say paper size wide, which is what a gate is. It's 11 by 8, basically 11.5 by 8.5. And so I have a really hard time kind of hitting that kind of accuracy. This thing, I can fly it anywhere. It just turns, and when you tell it to do something, it does it. And I was really, really impressed with it. So, that said, probably next week what we're going to do is we're going to go through setting up the B core. There's a gentleman, and again, I'll have to find his website, YouTube site, and I'll link it down below once I do find it, that goes through actually setting up, or I'll link it maybe next week, that setting up your kind of clone or fake Inductrix, if you want to call it that, in Betaflight to get it to fly like this guy. If we can do that, you can build the FPV version of the B core for around $65, give or take, and this guy costs $49, I think. So, and then you still got to buy a camera, and you got to do a lot of extra work. And so, hopefully, we can make it cheaper. But if not, I'm actually, to be honest with you, if I could program this, I'd be a lot happier. But it doesn't really need it. If it could fly maybe acro, it might be a little bit more beneficial. But a lot of the Whoop pilots anyway, especially like Jesse Perkins say, for the most part, they're flying around in stabilized mode anyway, or air mode in Betaflight. So. Yeah, so let's not talk too much more about that. Let's get into our build for tonight. But if you're new to drones and you want to learn how to fly a drone, I was amazed at how easy this thing was to fly. And so that's my little rant for this evening. So let's get to building. I forgot the Scotch tape. Give me 1 second. Okay, well, apparently my son, hi philosophical gamer, how are you doing tonight? Apparently my son used up all the Scotch tape. So I will just use a different kind of tape to do our thing. So what we're going to do, I'm going to back this out just a little bit here. You can look at my messy workstation. I'm going to plug in the heat gun and the heat wand so that we can cut through the styrofoam. So the heat wand is this guy here. Now you can build these. There's some instructions for building these, and it's super cheap. You can make a homemade version. It'll look similar to this. The only difference is I forgot to put the diode on, so it just kind of died on me. But you can build your own heat wand pretty cheap if you don't want to buy one. These usually run about 25 bucks, give or take. You might be able to find them cheaper somewhere as well. But what this is going to do is this is going to cut through the styrofoam really quick and make your cuts nice and clean. Or at least a lot cleaner than a knife would for the most part, unless you're really good with a knife and styrofoam, which I am not. So hopefully y'all can hear me okay. feel free to leave comments, and I'll try to answer as best as I can. Let's get started. I'm going to plug these guys in. Now, the interesting thing about a glue gun and styrofoam is what? What's going to be my problem with a heat gun and styrofoam? They're streaming Dark Forces. BSD is closed tomorrow. Oh, cool. School district's closed. So that's cool. There's that. And we'll move all the stuff away from it so it doesn't melt. And the heat gun, the glue gun. There we go. Alright. And I will try not to burn myself tonight as best as I can. Okay, so now that you know, give you a few minutes, the answer to what's going to be my problem with this heat gun, this glue gun, is heat and styrofoam don't mix. So when I put a hot glue on a piece of styrofoam, it is going to cause us some grief, right? So what we're going to do, I'm going to put this aside. I got a camera for it. We're going to throw this FPV. This is a TX. This is the eSheen TX03 FPV camera system, 3-in-1, 25 milliwatt, 50 milliwatt, and 200 milliwatt. We're going to throw that on top of this hovercraft. Now, what I will say is this does have, it's got 72 channels, and what that means is there are some channels on this that go into low band, which is, like 56, 57, 24 and below. And the problem with that is it's not legal in most cases, from my understanding and what I've been able to determine. So if you use this camera, be responsible. Stay between, I think you have to look up where low band cuts off. I think Josh Bardwell just did a thing on it recently, and it's like 57.25 to 58.75, I think. So just stay in those, A through F bands, A through E bands, and you should be okay. There's a list on there. Okay, that gun heats up fast. I don't need it that hot. So let's go ahead and just be responsible. If it's illegal to fly with it, just don't fly with it that way, please. Yes, there are some in the race band that are down in the 5600s, and in most cases, as far as I know, your race clubs and your race events have gotten permission to use those frequencies for the race. So just, if you don't need to be down there, don't be down there. Just be up in your upper bands, okay? Enough on that. I'm not an expert. I'm not a lawyer. I don't actually know. I'm just saying that's what the guys that have been doing this for a long time say. So, and I know there's an argument in there. I'm not looking to start an argument. Just find out what your local laws are and stick to them, please. It helps our hobby as people do things that are illegal or silly that can endanger people. It makes things bad for the hobby, and then eventually we just won't be able to fly anywhere. So let's be responsible. Okay, enough of a rant. Sorry, I'm really thirsty, and I'm going to run out of a voice here pretty quick if I don't stay hydrated. Okay, even though pop's not really hydration. But okay, so let's cut out our whoop. And so the way we're going to do that, we're going to back out even a little more so you guys can see kind of what I'm doing. We are... hate glue guns, they're just messy. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our styrofoam. Normally I'm a little more, I'll conserve this a little bit more by, well, I'm not using those, so I'm gonna cut it up here just to save styrofoam. But I'm being kind of lazy tonight, so I'm tired, my hands aren't as steady, so we're just gonna tape this up. What I do is just to keep it from shifting around, I'm gonna tape it. In this case, I'm gonna have to use, oh, here's some Scotch tape. Apparently I was blaming my son for something he didn't do. And then, down there, follow FCC regs, please. Yes, absolutely. make everyone happy. You know, we're broadcasting at such a low frequency that in most cases the radio guys and the big equipment operators, I don't know that they really care. But that said, let's not break the law. No, Chris, breaking the law is not fun. Well, let me rephrase that. It might be fun until you get the fine, and then you won't fun. Of course, the hard thing is it's hard to get caught, although from what I understand, there's some radio guys out there that like to track down people doing things that are not so on the up and up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to score this. And I got lots of extra, and then just break it. It's messier, but hey, I got a vacuum cleaner. So now we've got our styrofoam, and we've got our template, and we got some people hanging out with us tonight and watching me do some bad soldering and bad foam work. So, alright, so next thing I do is I want to etch the pattern here as best as I can into the styrofoam. And I've seen people use pencils. The problem I had with the pencil was it kept breaking on me. So what I'm using here is this clay sculpting tool. It seems to work pretty well. It's got a little bit of a round tip like a pen does, but seems to leave a pretty good impression that I can see with the wand when I'm cutting out the styrofoam. So the pieces I want to use here, and I know I'm not really set up to do this as well. That's more for setting up drone stuff. Is this piece, which is the top piece, and in this case, the dotted lines are showing me where I can put all of these other pieces. The solid lines are what I need to cut out, and in our case, we're going to do things slightly different. They've got the fins on the outside, and I may still do that. I don't know. We'll see. I kind of like the fins closer together, but apparently you get a little bit better performance if you put them on the outside. So let's maybe do that tonight, since I got the ones more along here, right off the back, which I've seen guys do, and it works fine. But let's go ahead and try tonight maybe and just see if we can't put them on the outside. Put the battery in the middle, as well as the motor with some mounts that we can then screw into. So we are going to use these guys here to create a surface for the board that's in here to sit on, as well as for it to screw on. And then we're going to use these to mount the motors, the upper motors on. They're kind of like the wings that you saw in the other build there. I'm not going to use this, and I'm not going to use this. This was normally where you'd put your camera, and this is where the board would go, and this is where your motors would actually sit in these down. You can see that there's an outline here, and that's where those would sit, and your motor would go right in the middle. But since I'm just going to use those to put the motor in, it'll be a lot easier. Try sharply. Try-ish. Yeah, I could use a Sharpie. I think that would work too, but I don't want to go look for one and waste your guys' times. And this worked for me the other day pretty well. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and do that. But that's a great idea, Chris. So all I do is just put some pressure. Now I don't care if I tear the paper. And I'm not going to be super clean tonight. I could probably do it a lot cleaner, but we are limited on time. So we are going to, and then I'll just kind of retrace it a little bit. And if you see me miss a step, please let me know. I know I haven't done the bottom yet. I'm doing that right now. Okay, and then we're going to do the middle. You guys ever built something like this before? Okay. There's one. First time. I left a link to Alex's web Thinker Presence thing where you can get the template for this. I think I got all that. Hopefully we'll be able to fly this tonight. I think we'll have plenty of time, but we'll see. Get some small needles to hold it in place. Be easier. Terrain and structures, yeah. In fact, that's the other reason why I went ahead and picked up the wand, is because some friends and I got in on the heavy gear, whatever it is. It's crowdfunding, but it's not that. It's the other one. Kevin, help me. Philosophical Gamer, sorry, if you can help me. I don't remember who. Yeah, you could pin it. I've seen people do that. Honestly, this doesn't move around enough. By the time I'm done, it'll be fine. Just to give me an idea of the shape anyway, because I'll end up taping it. And so it doesn't have to be perfect. And actually, there's some kits you can buy that already have all this foam cut out. And it's actually on foam as opposed to styrofoam. And so it's quite a bit more sturdy, but almost as light. And so as long as I get the basic shape, it'll fly. Well, hover, not fly. That's that. And honestly, I just kind of feel my way on the inside cut anyway, because I think this pattern for this kind of foam is a little narrow, and so I usually make it I made it just a little bit bigger. You can also put skirts on these, and that will help give them a better, more stable hover. I don't know if we'll do that tonight. We'll see. They say you can use plastic bags, so we'll see. Alright, so now I've got my patterns cut out, and can actually just pull this off now, I believe, and then pull the plastic sheet that's on top of the styrofoam off, and then start cutting. So I'm going to heat my wand back up while that's going on. Go ahead and pull off my template. I don't know if you can see real well. I'll try to get a shadow on it, but there's a pretty good etch in there for the stuff. So sometimes the easiest, cheapest solution is usually a good one. Although I think a Sharpie, Chris, would work just great. Kickstarter, thank you. So I picked this wand up as well because I want to build some terrain, because I've got the heavy gear Kickstarter and the whole shebang, both armies, and the kind of independent army, and so pretty cool stuff. And going to be building those soon. I may even end up doing that some on this channel as well, just because I am not super rich, and so coming up with drone stuff every single week may be a challenge. And so when I don't have something drone related to do, I will let you guys know in the notification, and then I will maybe I'll build some heavy gear models or something. So we'll see. Doesn't always have to be drones, although I'm going to try to do a lot of drone related stuff here. I'm going to go ahead, use my wand, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut through. And one thing I found is that as you're cutting, the wand tends to get cool. So moving the wand up and down as well, and just kind of letting it melt forward, gives you a pretty good cut. I'm going to set that off to the side for now. And we got all this extra styrofoam if we need more to kind of build structure. So I'll probably use a little piece for camera. I'm going to go ahead and just cut right in here. I was looking at the camera. Probably not the best thing to do on using a very hot device to cut. And that's two. Over here for now. Alright, so the next thing, see I got this little carve out there, but it should be fine. It's just got to keep the air trapped inside, so I'm not too worried about it. I'll just end up cutting my area here a little deeper, and so it'll be fine. So I'm going to cut out this little section here. Not super important. What do we got? I was thinking of doing similar. Yeah. It's always fun. I'm hoping to learn some new modeling techniques, some new terrain techniques, especially, Chris. I haven't built a lot of styrofoam terrain. I got a friend who's really heavy into Warhammer that I'm sure could help as well. But any tips when we're doing it, for sure, I will listen. I may not be able to accommodate the idea at the time, but I'll usually adopt it, especially if it's a good idea. The wings you want to be a little more precise on. And then now I'm going to carve out this kind of frame. I'll kind of take my time here because it's going to be thin enough that it might... I can always make it smaller if I need to. But for now, it's pretty fragile. It'll break. I think I'm going to leave this guy pretty long because of the mistake I made earlier. Kind of breathing this. I don't really want to. And just in the interest of not burning my finger like I did the other day, take a quick break. Really thank you guys for kind of being repeat offenders and joining me again. Always nice to have company while I'm doing this, as Kevin's found out. Sorry, Kevin. As Philosophical Gamer has figured out. But that's hard not to call you by name. You did that to me the other night on Twitch, and not that I care, but it's hard not to do. Okay, and so there's the base, and so now what we do is we're going to end up putting this on top, and then we'll put tape over it to give it some nicer structure. Okay, and then that creates the air cavity underneath. And what a lot of guys have done is they've taken a plastic bag, put it over the top, secured it, and then put holes in it in pattern. So hole, 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 and a big hole in the middle. And that creates a pocket for the air to sit in, just like a skirt would on a real hovercraft. And that brings it up, and then it'll slide better. We may not have time to do that tonight, but I eventually will do that with this guy. Now the really cool part is I'm using a pretty expensive drone to build this thing, but there is a link down there to the Banggood E010. It costs $13. Comes with a little controller that's very similar to this guy here, and honestly, with these particular builds, you're pretty much just going to be using this guy anyway. You can do some pivoting with this, but for the most part, it's all this stick. And so, $13 and some styrofoam and some time, and you got this little thing. And you'll see this is if I build it right, this thing whips around really good. Kind of drifts around, and it's going to be fun. So, again, $13 and some time. You know, styrofoam's like $5. You can use foam. If you have styrofoam around the house, you could cut it out. You could shape it out of some packaging styrofoam. I've seen guys build it with their 3D printers. Do some pretty cool things. One guy built a model of a starship from the Star T Enterprise to do that. Little pun on words there. Get a fan. Yeah, there is a little bit of a fan, but it's pulling it away from me for the most part until I pull it too close to me. But you're absolutely correct. I don't want to breathe this on a regular basis. And if I run a fan right now right next to it, it will almost done. I am just going to go and we may need some more later, but alright, so that's it for that little guy. But yes, I don't want styrofoam lung, so I will maybe get a little better fan solution for next time. If I do, I won't do a lot of styrofoaming probably. So, yes, no, I don't want cancer. And like I said, there is a small fan going here, so I'm not. It's not too bad, but if I do it on a regular basis, then yes, I will get some better solution. Most of the smoke is going this way, away from me. So the only time it wasn't is when I get it, you know, too close to me, and that's just not good. But thank you for your concern, gentlemen. All right. So now that that's done, what's next? Let's cut out. Well, let's not do that. Let's get our base on. Now the tricky part again here with this is the hot glue gun. The glue's too hot. So what I try to do here, because it's going to melt the styrofoam, right? What we're going to do is kind of let it cool just enough that it's sticky and pliable, but not super hot that it melts the styrofoam or my fingers. There you go. It dries pretty fast that way too. What I do for the rest of it is I'm going to tape this up and kind of glue the tape to the tape that's around it. And so we'll get to that. Since my little top here is blue, this guy is going to be a blue drone, blue Whoover. So this electrical tape stuff, it doesn't stick super well, so you kind of have to coax it. Actually, I'm going to do that one, this one a little differently this time. So, scissors, low temp, hot glue, or high temp. It's just a cheap glue gun, so it has one temperature. If that's what you're asking. Was that your question? I know it takes a while for you to respond. Also, Chris, oh, probably. Yeah, the lower temperature would certainly do that. That's why I put it on a little wood stick, just to give it a chance to cool down. It was cheaper than buying an expensive glue gun. If I get into doing a lot of styrofoam work, or then perhaps I will invest in something a little nicer than the $6 glue gun that I've got here. $5 glue gun. So what this is going to do is give me some color. It's going to add some rigidity, and frankly, it's going to look a little cooler once it's all done than just styrofoam. So I may even stripe it like I did the other one. We'll see. And then what I'll do is I'll print out some cool decals to stick on here as well. Eventually, not tonight. Maybe. We'll see. I might build something out of something a little more sturdy than styrofoam, but we'll see. Apparently these are addictive and super fun because they are super easy to get the hang of, and then you can race your friends FPV on the floor around, you know, like, because you could take this up, for example, to an undercover area, at a school, for example, and get a race in, or a couple races in, if the school's okay with it. Schools are usually, I don't know what, I know that some of the schools, I'm pretty sure, aren't okay with drone flying. there's an app you can get that will kind of give you, I think it's called like air mode or something like that, where you can look. I haven't worried about it yet because I haven't been doing any real outdoor flying except for just kind of testing, but for the most part. I actually thought about using duct tape too, just because it obviously would take less time to cover and wouldn't leave as many lines. But it is thicker tape, and I was concerned about maybe making it too heavy. That said, it probably wouldn't. The gaffer's tape that we use probably would. But the duct tape would probably be okay. So here's what I'm doing. I should stay on camera. I'm just kind of working it now around. Now you don't want to stretch the tape because it'll cave in the styrofoam. You just kind of want to lay it on but make it stick, but without too much tension. You can always rub it down later. Alright, now we got a little kind of color platform. Really doesn't matter. We're trying to do this a little fast tonight. But that's what I would do. I'd tape it up, cover it up. You know, for example, you could take my white tape, right? You could run some vertical stripes or horizontal stripes across it. You could do racing stripe, like a single racing stripe down the middle like I did with this guy. You can do, you know, some angled stuff. I mean, you can put a flame job on there if you wanted to. I think that would be kind of cool. Depends on how much time you wanted to spend on it. Right now, I just want to get something up and flying, or hovering, I guess. Yeah, I'm flying indoors right now. I'll fly outside once I get some logistical things that I don't want to mention on air taken care of. There's also the part of the issue too is if I want to monetize, I got to get my Part 107, and so before I can actually monetize this channel, which eventually I want to do, start trying to maybe earn and pay for some of my drone work, I need to do a Part 107. I probably should technically have one now. The good news is I'm a flight simulator guy. You know, I've got a yoke actually just sitting off screen here. Kevin's seen it. And so a lot of the Part 107 is actually, you know, air charts and how to read them, and I already know how to read air charts. So I took a practice test on it, and I got like a 90. I missed one, and it was a question about clouds that I didn't know. But for the most part, I was able to answer them without even studying. So I should be okay. I'm going to do some studying anyway, and then take the test here pretty soon. It's $150, really not super expensive. But as far as the outdoor flying is concerned, I'm not really in a hurry. The weather's not all that great, so kind of indoors, you know, in my house, it's not a big deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these fans out. It's the back. So these are my front motors. Not that it really matters. We're going to just cut these out. And oh, I made this hole just a little bit too big. So I was afraid of that. So I'll need to add some tape in the inside a couple of times, just to get this a little bit more stable. Shouldn't be a big deal though. I'll just put an extra piece of tape or two around the inside to get some thickness here, and then this will sit right in there, just like the other one. I just made the hole a little big. I was afraid of that when I cut that one. So, if anything, make your holes a little small, and you can always make them a little bigger if you need to. There's no need to clean them up. you get a little bit of plastic on them, it just helps them stay wedged in there. So this one was a little bit better. This guy's going to need to, let's fix that. So I'm going to do that on the inside. And I'll just keep adding it until it gets, probably one more on the inside over here will be fine. Some side cutters. Yeah, I might actually have some, if I know what you're talking about, I think I might actually have a pair around here. I will definitely need something other than a hobby knife when I do the heavy gear stuff, because it's certainly a lot more cleanup work on those. There, it's better. As long as it's not going to fall through when I hit a bump, because you know it is hovering off the air. That should be okay. Alright, so that is that piece. This guy's ready to go. The next piece is we're going to do a couple things. We're going to leave... We got a couple options here. I have seen a build where... let's take you down a little closer here. I've seen a build where Citadel Fine Detail Clippers, I'll look those up. They probably have some at our local hobby shop, right? One of the builds that we have, yeah, I'm definitely going to have to get some better ventilation, is he leaves this spline here intact off the motor, and then makes just a small cut into here, into here, like right over here, and sticks the motor just straight on top rather than up in the air, you know, up here. And I'm almost thinking I like that better, but I also think these fins might help kind of keep everything going straight. I think I'm going to leave the fins intact. I think I'm going to take the spline and leave that and put the spline in here, because one of the things I did also have issues with is just getting the fan lined up straight by just gluing it on here. So maybe what I'll try this time is, you can see over here, they're just kind of glued on there. And so I think what I'll do there is try to just keep this guy intact here and stick it in the foam with a little bit of glue and see if that gives me a little bit better forward angle. We'll try that, see what happens. Who knows? It's kind of fun just to explore. Spawn. Not sponsored. Yes, yeah. I don't think they would care too much if we're sending business their way, but you never know. So let's tape up our fins here. Actually, I'll just back that out now. sometimes it's hard to just keep talking forever. So now, got to keep everything above board. Yeah, that's true. Otherwise YouTube will shut you down. And I was still noticing that even when I had the tape on, the hot glue would heat the tape to the point where it would melt the we're going to put this guy right there, I think. We're going to put him on the far outside and see how it does. And this little glue gun likes to leak. Let's give it a second, cool down a little bit. I hate waiting on shipping. Did you buy it local or from one of the overseas company, if you don't mind me asking? Also, if you guys are buying drone stuff, it would be super helpful if you are going to buy from one of the affiliates there that I'm listed with. If you buy through the link, it gives me a little bit of credit where I can buy stuff, help buy stuff for the show. So, you know, I'm not going to shamelessly plug. I'll try to be as objective as possible when it comes to reviewing their products versus other people's products. That being said, like I said, you know, I'm not a Horizon affiliate, but it's a better drone. It's also more expensive, so it really depends on what your budget is. So well, I didn't get on there fast enough. I was too busy hammering. So easy enough. We're gonna just stick a little bit more hot on there real quick. So cool, yeah. Yeah, it's always not fun having to. That's the only downside about ordering stuff is you got to wait for it, as opposed to local. But the problem that I've had with a lot of local RC shops, and it's not true for all of them, but a lot of times they have to overcharge because they just cost them more to stock the stuff. But I don't think they're being malicious. I just think they've got a lot more overhead and they've got large rents to pay and stuff. So the local guy that I deal with I'm going to be dealing with for my larger drone, his name Diablo Hobbies, and again, not really not a sponsored ad. Like he's not sponsoring the show or anything. He's really helpful to the local racing community, and his prices, his prices are really good, and he only stocks kind of the stuff that everybody locally kind of considers the top thing, and he keeps stuff in for less expensive, and I'm sure he can order things as well. So that's Diablo Hobbies, and again, really good guy. Been really happy with the information he's helped me with, as far as understanding some of this stuff and not kind of buying the wrong things too much and all of that. So, and didn't take advantage of the fact that I'm new. There's all that kind of stuff. Like, oh, let's sell him this piece of junk stuff because he's new and wouldn't know better. He's not like that at all. He's super helpful. Really appreciate him. and what he does for the hobby. So thank you, Diablo Hobbies. I appreciate it. When I can, and he's selling stuff, I usually link to him first, even though I don't get anything for it. I just kind of want to return in some way when I can. And honestly, most of the time, his prices, I can't find something cheaper. So a lot of even the online stuff in China is more expensive. He does his research and keeps his prices really competitive. So that's also a bonus. And then you can just go to his shop in Vancouver and go get it. Or have him ship it to you, and you'll have it probably within a day or two if he's got it on hand. He's really good about getting stuff out the door and in the mail. So, all right, there's number 2. Which way? There we go. I didn't do a very clean job on that. But, again, we're kind of in a hurry, so I'm not really looking for super aesthetics. You could certainly spend a little bit more time on this and make it look more pleasing using some other techniques, I'm sure. So, and we're going to do that. So let that glue dry for now. Things are starting to shape up. And we're pretty straight. So now let's continue cutting this guy out. Like I said, I'm going to leave these guys as intact as possible, so I'm going to cut right down. Oh, you know what? I did it on the wrong side. That's what you get for not planning. So we'll do it the other way. I just have to be more careful when I'm gluing it. I had a plan in my head, and then I changed it, and so while I was talking the right thing, I was doing what I had planned, and so, yeah. Alright. So now that we're done with that, we're going to have a nice little, I'm going to go ahead and trim this, but we're going to have a nice little battery holder, and that'll go on the back somewhere around in there, right, facing this way. Battery will go in, and that way it'll be all set to ride. Okay, so now that I messed up on these guys, we are going to go ahead and glue them on as well and try to get them as straight as humanly possible. Probably doesn't have to be perfect, but that one's pretty good. I'm going to have to get all the glue off my mat. What? It's always weird how... Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with, like, a place like Amazon for, they can buy things in just massive bulk, right? So a local hobby shop or a local store, that isn't a major retailer, they're gonna, like a mom and pop store, they're gonna have to, they are going to, be able to buy maybe 20 units, something like that, whereas Amazon can buy 100,000 units, and as a result, if you're the manufacturer and someone wants to buy 100,000 units from you, well, you're going to give them a discount to encourage them to buy those 100,000 units. And so there's a lot of negotiating that happens there. It's looking a lot straighter than the last time, so we'll let that dry. May add a little bit more glue later on, so I'm going to put this off to the side. Local shop has to only have, a set of items, and so I get it. My mom used to own a store, and so it was hard for her to compete even then with, like major size stores. Like for her, she was doing RPG games and then Nintendo games and things, and then for her to try to compete with at the time, Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, and it was challenging. She did a really good job at it, actually, given the environment. A really cool store. Obviously, I got a discount growing up on all my comics and RPG games and stuff, so that was a huge bonus for me, as well as some work ethics and work experience there. Let's see. So we are now at the part of taking this guy apart. What's our time look like? I am really tired tonight, so if we don't finish this up tonight, see, we've already been at this almost an hour, so we may or may not finish this up tonight. I'm going to try to at least get the Inductrix done, and then I'll just do another stream tomorrow to finish it up. Normally I wouldn't do that, but it's been a really long day with the weather and stuff going on. I'm super tired tonight, so don't want to go too much more than an hour and a half. So we'll see how much more we can get in the next 20 minutes or so. And if not, I'll finish up the build like I did on my first video and publish that sometime, probably either tomorrow or the day after, but we'll just kind of see. So next thing, this nice cool thing is this just pops off, and just like the other one, little board. Want to note that forward is where the antenna is. I don't know if you can see it, but there is a little arrow right here pointing this way. Tells you where the front of the board is. What did you, Chris, what did you order? Yeah, online retailer. Maybe smaller, or maybe they just charge more. Amazon is a giant beast, and they can afford to lose money on one side of their merchandise to draw people to them and make more money on other things. Amazon's kind of one of those big players right now that they're kind of on the top of the food chain, and competing with them as a small or even web presence is harder, because you still have to have overhead to store those things. Batteries are especially tricky because you need specialized equipment to store them, technically to store them properly, so depending on the battery, like these lipos, not even supposed to ship them, and they do. Like when I got a pack of 5 with the with the small pepper that I did the review on, those sat in customs for a long time because I didn't package them right, and so yeah, there's just a lot of details. So we're going to unscrew this guy here. Might have to get a smaller screwdriver. Yep. This is small. Let's see. The other thing we're going to do on this guy, I don't know if I got one that small. That should work. If not, I have a little black screwdriver around here that's probably small enough. Oh, it's a cheap one. Yeah, the Ishin E0, 010 and 10C, and the 85, I think it's an 85C, those are all decent little, micro drones. If you're getting a bigger one, those I don't know a whole lot about yet. Especially if you're doing like a photography, kind of like a Phantom clone or something like that. I know you can get Phantom and Phantom Pro clones for a lot cheaper than the actuals, and so a lot of people are doing that when they want to kind of start their photography to get used to. Just know that if you're doing anything to promote a business, even if it's just flying it around and putting a YouTube video out, and all of a sudden you're making money off of that, from what I understand, you need your Part 107. So, which is basically a UAV pilot's license. Foldable drone. Yeah, I saw that one, I think, on Banggood. Alright. Also, a few other shops out there. So we'll just slowly work the board. I'm going to save. I've got to disconnect the motors. I'm going to... Actually, let's get our motors in, because I need to place the motors in the right spot. So while I've got orientation, let's do that. Because these cables on this drone are not color coded like normal to know which ones are which. Let's see if I can just kind of just push without pulling the prop off. Try to get this guy out a little bit. What I want to do is, this Inductrix frame is kind of nice, so I don't really want to bend it too much. Probably just pull the props off. Let's back this out so you guys can watch. So again, my orientation is, my arrow is this way is forward, so this motor goes here, this motor goes here, this motor goes on the right side, and this motor goes on the left side. So your clockwise motor goes here in the front position, your counterclockwise motor goes here, your counterclockwise in the back goes on the right, and your clockwise motor on the back goes on the left. So instead of being opposite, normally you would have clockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise, counterclockwise. In the case of this build, you want to go clockwise, clockwise, counter, counter, unless you've got a board that you can program and you can change the direction the motor is spinning. So if you had like that B-Core 3 that we did last week, you would be able to program those motors to spin the other direction. Instead of having to worry about orientation, just program which way you want them to spin and away you go. This board, however, I don't know how to do that. I don't even know if you can. So it's important that we get the motors placed in the right positions. So we're going to go ahead and take this clockwise motor out. And oops, well, looks like we're going to do some soldering because I just pulled the wire off of there. Shoot. Well, that was a rook move. So let me see. These are twisted. I can't tell which side is positive on here. Let's see. There is no... Might be a marking right there. I don't think I have any more this size motors. I may have to go buy some. Shoot. Can't tell which side is which on these. Well, for now, dang it, really didn't want to have to. I have some faster motors. I have some 17.5K motors, but they're 7mm instead of 6mm, and so I don't know if I can. I don't have a actually I do have a magnifying glass. Hot glue. See, I like to burn myself on my hot glue gun. It's covered. There is a ArtNet. Really small print. I can't read it. They're both got glue on them, covered them up. It is a 6-axis. pretty sure all of the micros are 6-axis, but don't quote me on that. Why do you ask? True, but that will require a lot more soldering. Right, so if I solder it on the wrong way, or attach the clip on the wrong way, actually I might be able to tell based on which one I pulled off here. Which one's, because it looks like one's going to be shorter than the other. So I bet that it goes like so. And then I'll be able to figure out, I can always just go buy another 6mm motor. It's not a huge deal, but in fact I do have one, I lied. Just don't remember if it works or not. I got a couple actually, so hold on. So I think what we'll do is we're going to pause for tonight, and I am going to figure something out. I think what I'll do is I actually kind of wanted to try the faster motors, but in order to get the faster motors on there, I have to get a different frame and put different frames on there. And so what I'll do is I'll either that or I'll just super glue the motors directly in, cut out this guy here to put underneath, and we'll do that. So we will finish this build up on the next episode, which will probably be just in the next day or two if I can find the parts. I don't currently have a lab power supply, no. No, not one that's reliable for this. Everything I have is way higher powered for speakers and things, so still building up my equipment to do this smaller work. And I am still trying to find my multimeter. Someone borrowed it and I don't know what happened to it, so it might actually be at church. It's also really easy to burn out these little motors, so you want to be careful about powering them without some sort of control on them as well. You know, I like I said, I've got all of these 7mm motors, which the board can easily handle. They won't fit in the 6mm fans, and so like I said, you don't need the fans. We can pull these off, and so I might just do that. I'm out of 6mm motors, unfortunately. So I think we're going to call that an evening, and I'm going to go ahead and I'll pick up, depending on the weather, if I go into work. Oops, wrong light. Sorry, guys. Depending on the weather, I'll go ahead and grab a 7mm frame and put 7mm motors in it, and I will try to figure out the easiest way to fix this guy up. could probably just recrimp it, just put it back in there, but that's a real pain. These little, I don't have the right tools to put these on, so see how the small chip aligns with the front of the drone. Right, that's the accelerometer. I thought you were looking for the type of it. This is the front of the drone is here. So you're thinking that this is the accelerometer? This smaller chip that's towards the front? I honestly can't tell. I can't read it, and so... Or are you thinking these two are the controls and that's the accelerometer? I'm just wondering which one they used. I can't really tell. And again, they painted over it, so I wonder if they're trying to kind of keep hidden CTR F. Looks like 5910. There's a bunch of other numbers on there, 34L something, but they got a large piece of paint over most of the chips. There is a ATMEL, Atmel, something, and then there's this back chip. It's all really small. I can't read it. But everything that's probably important is most likely covered by this white paint. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and then, not pause it, but stop it here for tonight, and then we will finish. Oop, see, okay, well, I already popped one motor off, so I'll just take the other one off here. And then we'll either glue the motors on here, and then I'll build the little frame to hold the motors into underneath, and we'll just use the 17 5K motors instead of the 16K motors I think come with the Inductrix, and we'll work from there. And then I'll order some more motors for the Inductrix so I can put it back together at some point. Really like this board, and so I'm probably going to order one of the cheap E. Yeah, I think that's what it says. The 5910 is the microcontroller. Okay, that's kind of what I thought. I'm not 100% sure on the chips yet. I'm learning. So you're more likely right than me. Unless that wasn't a question and it was a statement, which, knowing you, it was probably a statement. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean you do your research, which is good. Yeah, so I really kind of want to put this back into a Whoop and get it flying, and so I'm going to put this guy back together and buy just like a cheap EO10C, so it'll have a little faster motors and faster control. It's got some extra features. I think you can flash that board easily, and so we'll put that on here and fly it around at some point. Honestly, I was watching people fly these guys around and they look really fun, and so I'll probably just leave it put together, but I'll switch the boards out at some point, because again, I want to use this Inductrix board for flying, not for leaving level on one of these guys. So sorry about not being able to complete the build, but we will get it completed here shortly. It's pretty simple after here. I'll just kind of walk through it for people who are just not wanting to wait for me to finish the video. Again, you want clockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise, counterclockwise. And that keeps everything going in the right direction. Typically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my battery back here, and I'm going to build up some space, some of these guys around it. Not in front, because the battery's got to go. Batteries are, you know, probably yay long, so, you know, it's going to slide in there and stick through to about here. So then we're going to put a mount on either side, and we're going to screw it into the styrofoam just to give it some stability. Maybe put a little bit of glue on it just to keep it from shifting around. I don't know yet. And then we're going to throw this little guy on the top, give it an engine cover, and then the camera is going to sit on a piece of foam right up front here. Doop. And we're going to have a first-person camera view for our new Whoov, tiny Whoov. So again, I apologize for the debacle, but that happens sometimes. And again, I'm still trying to build up some equipment so that I have things to test. And again, we could get that motor working, I think. But again, I want to reuse this board, and so I'd rather have a motor that I can just attach and detach to this again. So I don't have to. I don't want to have to desolder the connector and then solder it back on later, or just have to continually solder stuff off. I do want to solder the larger MPC connector on here. Just you can get higher, that way I can get a high voltage battery on it and a little bit higher milliamp battery and swap out with my other drones. So that'll all happen on the next video, which will either be tomorrow, Thursday, or this weekend at the latest. It really depends on obviously my work schedule and the weather. We've got some snow going on here, so see if I can get to the store. If not, again, I'll build the styrofoam legs, you know, that sit in here to put the motors in, and then we'll do it that way instead, and that's fine. It works just fine from what I've seen. So yeah, so again, thanks for hanging with me tonight. Chris, thanks for all the great the paint dots are probably to mark that they have been programmed. Probably. Yeah, they're probably not hiding anything. I think everybody, it's not like people can't reverse engineer them that are trying to reverse engineer them anyway, so and can't just get the paint off. So you're most likely right to say, hey, it's taken care of. Accelerometer align their axis with the case. That's why it's tilted relative to the other chips. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Alright guys, well, thanks for joining me tonight. Sorry I'm spacing off. I'm sure no one wants to see me space off. As always, get out there, enjoy your flying, enjoy your driving if you build one of these guys, and have a good evening, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Have a good evening.